The billionaire didn't mean for the entire restaurant to fall silent, but it did the moment he mocked his own deaf son and demanded that a waitress prove she could talk to him. No one expected her to step forward. No one expected her hands to rise in a language the room had never seen. And absolutely no one expected the truth that moment would expose. A truth powerful enough to resurrect a broken family and ignite a fight for thousands of forgotten lives. What happened next would change every person in that room, especially the waitress who refused to let a boy disappear. By the time the laughter started, my hands were already shaking. Crystal glasses chimed, silverware clattered delicately against porcelain, and the dining room at Ridgeview Summit glowed like a scene from a movie. Outside, Portland was drowning in winter rain. Inside, Money was drinking French wine and pretending the world didn't hurt. I moved between tables with 3 plates balanced on my left arm and a bottle of Malbec in my right hand, gliding around suits in designer dresses as if I'd been born to dodge rich people's elbows. To them, I wasn't a person. I was a tray on legs, a voice that said good evening and of course sir and right away ma'am. A shadow cut across my path. Move, a man's voice snapped behind me. People who matter are trying to get through. I barely had time to shift before a hard shove rocked my shoulder. The glasses on my tray tilted dangerously. A couple at the next table gasped. I forced my muscles to lock, teeth clenched, wrists tight, saving hundreds of dollars in glass from smashing all over the floor. Sorry, sir, I murmured, automatically stepping aside. He didn't look back. People like that never did. Emily, Jenna, our manager, hissed from the service station. For God's sake, pay attention. Do you know who that was? I dared a glance. The man strode through the dining room with 3 other suits following him and moving like he owned not just the restaurant, but the building, the street, the skyline. No, I said, but I'm guessing you're about to tell me. That was Richard Caldwell, she nearly choked, then lowered her voice. He owns the Caldwell Grand Chain. He could buy this place 10 times over. If he complains about you, we're all in trouble. You hear me? I didn't do anything, I whispered. He pushed me. Doesn't matter. He's money. You're replaceable. Smile and keep moving. Table 12 needs wine. Table 5 is waiting to be cleared. And fix your apron. She walked away before I could answer. That was my life at Ridgeview Summit. Take orders, take insults, take whatever people handed me. I didn't have the luxury of pride, not with the hospital still calling about my sister, not with my rent already 3 days late. I dropped the plates at table 9, apologized for the wait, even though they'd spent 10 minutes arguing about which appetizer to order, then slipped back to the kitchen. Table 9 finally fed? Chef Nolan muttered, never looking up from the sizzling pans. Yes, chef, I said. Good, because table 14 is Caldwell's party, and if we screw this up, I'm putting all your tips on the grill with this steak. My stomach clenched. That's his table? Yeah, him, some foreign investors, and his deaf kid. Investors are American and German, I think. Jenna wants everything perfect. Caldwell likes to destroy places in his spare time. One bad review from him and we all go home unemployed. My arms ached, my feet burned. My heart felt like old glass that had been dropped too many times and glued back together wrong. But I nodded anyway. Got it. I checked my hair in the reflection of the fridge door, smoothed my black apron, picked up a tray of fresh glasses and the wine list, then stepped back out into the lights. Table 14 sat near the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city spread behind them like a postcard. Caldwell looked exactly like the business magazines. Tall, sharp features, silver hair combed back with precision, a suit that probably cost more than I'd earn in 6 months. His presence felt heavy, like gravity had decided he was its favorite. Next to him sat a boy, maybe 16 or 17, dark hair falling over his forehead, eyes fixed on the tablecloth. No phone out, no earbuds, hands resting awkwardly in front of him. Evan, I thought. I'd read about him once. The deaf son of a hotel tycoon who always looked alone in every paparazzi photo. I swallowed, pulled in a breath I hoped sounded confident, and walked up to the table. Good evening, gentlemen, I said. Hey, ma'am. My name is Emily, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Can I offer you something to drink while you look over the menu? The investors ordered whiskey. Caldwell ordered a very specific French red and corrected my pronunciation just loud enough for everyone to hear. Polite smiles, business talk, numbers that sounded like phone numbers but were actually money. Then I turned to the boy. And for you, sir? He looked up at me. His eyes were startlingly warm and intelligent. But behind them was that same look I'd seen 1,000 times in the mirror of a hospital room. That quiet question, am I in the way? His lips parted. No sound came out. His jaw tightened with familiar frustration. He doesn't speak, Richard said, not bothering to lower his voice. He can't hear a thing. Just bring him water. It's not like he can order for himself. There was laughter, low and uncomfortable, around the table. My stomach seemed to drop straight through the floor. Of course, sir, I said. I made myself smile. But when I looked at the boy again, my chest constricted. He'd lowered his gaze to his hands like he was used to this, like he'd learned to make himself smaller than the space he occupied. It was the same look my little sister gave the first time a teacher turned her back while she spoke with her hands. Camilla. For a second, the noise of the restaurant faded. I saw the hospital again. The wires, the chalk-white fingers tracing signs with shaking hands. Promise me something, she had signed that last night. Don't let people like me disappear. Don't let us be invisible. I blinked hard. If I let myself fall into that memory, I wasn't sure I'd climb back out. In the kitchen, Nolan frowned when I placed the drink order, embraced my hands on the counter. You good, he asked. Yeah, I lied. Just tired. Tired is permanent, he grunted. Get used to it. I poured water, whiskey, and wine, carried the tray back out, and served each glass with practiced precision. The investors drifted in to talk about international expansion. Caldwell boasted about deals in Europe and South America. Evan sat silent, fingers tracing invisible patterns on the tablecloth. So, said James, the American investor, swirling his drink, heard your son's at a special school. How's that going? The question dropped like a stone in a still pond. Caldwell's jaw tightened. He has his limitations, he said flatly. We manage as best we can. It must be challenging, said the German investor Klaus. Communication is everything in business. I hope he finds a way to overcome those barriers. Caldwell let out a humorless laugh. There is nothing to overcome. Deaf is deaf. There's no miracle. You accept it and you move on. Evan's head snapped up. He'd read that. His eyes were glossy, his throat working as he swallowed hard. I stepped in before my mouth could think better of it. Are you ready to order? I asked quickly. They rattled off entrees. When I glanced at Evan, Caldwell didn't give me a chance. Bring him a medium steak, he said. He can't tell you what he wants anyway. The words scraped raw across everything inside me. With respect, sir, I heard myself say, I could ask him. The silence at the table was instant and absolute. Caldwell slowly turned his head toward me, eyes narrowing like he'd just discovered something offensive in his food. No. Ask him, he repeated. How exactly do you plan to do that, Miss Emily? Read his mind? Stare at him until he magically grows a voice? There was a huff of laughter from one investor. Another smirked behind his glass. I could feel other diners turning toward us, sensing a scene. I just meant, I said, cheeks burning, that there are other ways to communicate. Caldwell leaned back, the predator scenting blood. You want to communicate with my deaf son so badly? His smile spread, cold and cruel. Fine, let's make this entertaining. Sir, Jenna's voice called nervously from across the room, but he ignored her. He raised his voice just enough for nearby tables to hear. Talk to my son, he said. Have a real conversation. If you can do that, I'll write you a check for $100,000 on the spot. The room rippled with shocked whispers. Somewhere, a fork clinked against china and didn't move again. I felt every pair of eyes land on me. My face burned so hot, I thought I might faint. This wasn't an offer, it was a public execution. Sir, I don't think this is appropriate, James muttered. Caldwell waved him off. Relax, it's a joke. She knows that. Everyone's getting a show, aren't we? A few people laughed, uncertain. Others watched, horrified but unable to look away. Evan sat frozen, shoulders rigid, eyes swimming with shame. He was trembling, not from anger but from being thrown under the bus one more time by the person who should have shielded him. Something broke inside me. 3 years of grief, 3 years of hospital collectors calling, 3 years of wiping down tables while rich people complained their food was lukewarm and their wine too warm. 3 years of seeing Camilla's hands reaching for someone, anyone, to look at her. Really look at her. I exhaled slowly. My hand stopped shaking. Okay, I said. I set the tray down on a nearby side table, stepped closer to Evan so he could see me clearly, and lifted my hands. And I spoke to him in the language the rest of the room didn't know existed. Hello, I signed. My name is Emily. Are you okay? Every sound in the restaurant died. The laughter cut off mid-breath. Glasses were held halfway to lips. Even the background music seemed to retreat. Evan's eyes flew wide, shock twisted into disbelief, then into something that looked dangerously like hope. His own hands rose, hesitant at first, then surer. "You sign," he replied, his fingers moving in a rush. "How?" "My sister was deaf," I answered. "I learned for her. For a moment, there was no Caldwell, no investors, no wealthy audience. Just a boy who had spent his life drowning in silence and a woman who refused to let him sink." Evan's hands moved again, faster now. The humiliation in his face had shifted to raw, desperate hunger. "Thank you," he signed. "Thank you for talking to me. Not about me." I felt my throat tighten. Behind me, I could sense Caldwell's stare like a physical weight. I turned to face him, finally letting my voice carry. "He asked if we have grilled salmon with steamed vegetables," I said evenly, "and he'd like fresh orange juice, not water." Caldwell's mouth opened and closed once, twice. The color drained from his face. "How do you," he started, but the words stumbled out and died. I met his gaze head on. For the first time that night, I didn't look away. "My sister was deaf," I said. "Her name was Camilla. I spent years talking with her, fighting for her, protecting her from people who treated her like she was less. People who thought being different meant being disposable." The room listened, every word landing heavy. "People," I added quietly. "A lot like you." I saw it then, a flicker in Richard Caldwell's eyes, quick and haunted, like I'd unknowingly ripped the lid off a box he'd buried a long time ago. This wasn't over. This wasn't just about a table or a tip or a cruel joke. This night was dragging something out of him that he had spent years refusing to face. And I had a sinking feeling that whatever it was about to pull all of us into its orbit. As I wrote down Evan's order with hands that finally felt steady, one thought echoed inside me. "Camilla, I hope you're seeing this. If you were in Emily's place, standing in front of a room full of strangers, would you still have raised your hands and defended Evan? Yes or no?" For a few seconds after I took Evan's order, no one at table 14 moved. It was as if the entire room had stepped into a vacuum where sound no longer existed. Even the rain outside had quieted, tapping softly against the windows like it, too, was waiting to see what would happen next. I gathered the empty glasses on my tray, my fingertips brushing the cold surface of Caldwell's untouched wine. The tremor under my skin finally settled, not because I wasn't afraid anymore, but because fear wasn't the loudest thing in me now. What I'd seen in Evan's face, the relief, the recognition, the flicker of hope, had drowned out everything else. When I turned to leave, Caldwell's voice stopped me. "How long have you known sign language?" He didn't say it cruelly this time. He didn't mock, didn't sneer. His tone was careful, as if his own words might betray more than he wanted. I faced him, tray balanced against my hip. "Since I was 12? And you used it with your sister?" "Yes." "What happened to her?" The question wasn't gentle, yet the hesitation behind it told me he wasn't just asking out of curiosity. Something in it was personal, raw. But the dining room was still staring, still listening, still weighing every breath of this exchange. I couldn't bleed open in front of strangers. Not again. "She passed away," I said, keeping my voice steady. 3 years ago." The air shifted around the table, thickening like humidity before a storm. Caldwell inhaled sharply, his fingers curling against the tablecloth. His jaw tightened, and for the first time he looked like a man whose armor wasn't titanium after all. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. The investors glanced at him in surprise. He wasn't the kind of man who apologized, not even when he was wrong. Maybe especially not then. "Thank you," I said. Then I stepped away before the moment could become something I wasn't ready for. In the kitchen, the tension followed me in like a shadow. "What the hell is going on out there?" Nolan demanded, slamming a pan onto the stove. "Jenna's running around like a tornado and telling everyone to prepare for a disaster." "Just a small misunderstanding," I said. "You sure? Because half the dining room looks like they watched God descend from the ceiling." I didn't answer. My thoughts were too tangled, my pulse still uneven. I grabbed the order slips, pinned them to the line, and tried to steady myself with the familiar sounds of the kitchen. Knives hitting cutting boards, flames flaring under skillets, steam hissing from pots. For a moment, I pretended nothing outside those swinging doors mattered, but it did. When the entrees were ready, I carried the plates back to table 14, placing the salmon in front of Evan with a soft smile. He signed a small thank you, subtle enough that the others didn't notice. I signed back, "You're welcome." His shoulders loosened, just slightly, like a knot pulled free after years of being tied too tight. The investors resumed their business conversation, but I could feel Caldwell's eyes on me every time I passed by. Not with the arrogance he'd shown before, but with curiosity, caution, and something else that looked suspiciously like guilt. After dessert orders were taken, the table seemed to settle into a new rhythm. The tension thawed, replaced by murmured conversations and clinking spoons. But as I stepped away, I heard Caldwell rise abruptly from his seat. "Miss Hartley," he said, "a word." Several diners turned to look. Of course they did. People pay extra for drama in a place like Ridgeview Summit. My lungs tightened as I followed him toward the hallway near the wine cellar. Out of view, but not out of earshot. Wealthy people love scandals too much for privacy. He faced me and crossed his arms, as if the posture itself held him together. "You embarrassed me tonight," he said, not cold but blunt. "But you also made me see something I didn't want to see." My grip tightened around my order pad. "And what's that?" He paused, searching for the right words. But the truth escaped before he could polish it into something elegant. "I don't know how to talk to my son." Of all the things he could have said, that one hit me like a blow. He looked away, rubbing his forehead. "Every time I try, I feel like I'm failing him, and I don't know how to fix it." "You could start by not humiliating him in public," I said before I could stop myself. His jaw clenched, not in anger, but in shame. "I know, I shouldn't have said what I said tonight. I lose patience. He reminds me of things I've spent my whole life trying not to feel." He didn't explain what those things were. He didn't have to. I saw it in his eyes and the weight he carried in his shoulders. Grief recognizes grief. "Evan is not a reminder," I said softly. "He's your son." He closed his eyes like the words cut deeper than I intended. When he opened them again, something in his expression had shifted. "Emily," he said quietly, "what you did tonight, it mattered more than you know." He stepped aside, allowing me to return to the dining room. But before I could leave, he added one more thing, the words slipping out like they'd been held back for years. "My sister was deaf too." The floor seemed to tilt under me. He didn't offer more, but the ghost of that confession stayed with me long after I walked away. It followed me through the rest of my shift, through the final round of clearing tables, through the quiet conversation I shared with Evan when I brought him a to-go bag of his favorite dessert. When closing time came, the restaurant emptied out and the lights dimmed. But I found Evan still standing near the front entrance, waiting alone while his father handled the bill. He tapped my arm gently. I turned to him and he signed with careful precision, "You were brave tonight. Most people don't talk to me." I smiled. "You deserve to be talked to." His eyes softened. Then his hands moved again, a little slower. "My dad is not a bad person, just broken in places I don't understand." I swallowed. Broken was a word I knew too well. "Tell him that," I signed. He gave a small, sad smile. "I think he already knows." Caldwell appeared then, coat over his arm, face unreadable. He thanked me again, quietly, and guided Evan toward the door. Before leaving, Evan looked back and signed one last thing. "Don't disappear." It took a long moment for me to find my breath. Walking home that night through the cold Portland rain, one thought echoed louder than the storm around me. I had stepped into something much larger than one awkward dinner service. Whatever fracture existed between that father and son, I had seen the edges of it, and I had the unsettling feeling that this night was only the beginning of whatever was coming next. If you were in Evan's place, would you want someone like Emily to step into your life and help heal what's broken? Yes or no? The next 48 hours unfolded in a way I could never have predicted, as if the universe had been waiting for one small moment of courage to crack open something much larger. After that night at Ridgeview Summit, I expected things to return to normal. People like me didn't become part of billionaires' stories. We served their food, wiped their tables, and vanished into the background where we belonged. But the following afternoon, while I was rolling silverware near the dishwasher, Jenna rushed toward me with panic in her eyes. "Emily, there's someone asking for you at the front." I frowned. "A customer?" "No," she whispered. "It's him." My heart tripped. I wiped my hands on my apron and headed to the host stand, expecting the worst. Richard Caldwell stood there in a charcoal coat, rain clinging to his shoulders. Next to him, Evan waited quietly, his hands tucked into his jacket sleeves. The lobby was silent, the other employees stealing glances like they were witnessing a live grenade. "Miss Hartley," Caldwell said, his voice steady but restrained. "May I speak with you?" I gestured toward the side hallway. He nodded. Evan followed, keeping a respectful distance, but close enough to read our faces. Caldwell exhaled slowly, as if pushing past something heavy inside him. "I need your help," he said, "and I'm aware how strange that sounds coming from me." I didn't speak. I wanted to hear the truth without encouraging or softening it. My sister Elena, he continued, struggled her whole life to be understood. She was deaf, like my son, brilliant, creative, full of ideas, but the world didn't know what to do with her. There was so much cruelty, so much silence, and I failed her in ways I've never forgiven myself for. His voice cracked, barely, but unmistakably. When she died, he said, I buried everything with her. My guilt, my grief, my fear that I was never enough for her. He looked at Evan, then at me, and I repeated the pattern with my son. Evan lowered his gaze, sadness tightening the corners of his mouth. I can't undo what I've done, Caldwell said, but I want to change what comes next, and I need someone who understands my son in ways I never learned how. It took me a moment to find my voice. What exactly are you asking me to do? Come with us, he said, just for the afternoon. There's something I need to show you, something I need you to help me interpret. Every instinct in me screamed that this was a terrible idea. I was a waitress. He was a billionaire who didn't know how to use the word please. Nothing about our world should overlap. But then I looked at Evan. Hope flickered behind his eyes, small, fragile, but real. And I remembered my promise to Camilla. I removed my apron. Fine, I said softly, I'll go. He didn't hide his relief. The car ride was quiet, broken only by the hum of the engine and the rain streaking the windows. We drove out of the city, past warehouses and bridges, until we reached a gated property overlooking a cliff. The building looked abandoned, wrapped in scaffolding and tarps. This, Caldwell said, was supposed to be a rehabilitation and education center for people with hearing loss, built in memory of Elena. I blinked. You built a center? I tried. His jaw tightened, but the project stalled. Investors pulled back, contractors quit, and now we're at risk of losing the entire thing. Why? He hesitated. Because I made it about my guilt, not about them, and things built from guilt tend to collapse. Evan walked forward, running his hand along the concrete wall. I followed him, signing, "What do you think?" He signed back, "It could help millions, if it ever opens." Inside, the halls were half finished, exposed wiring, unpainted drywall, empty rooms waiting for their purpose. Everything felt suspended between what it was and what it could be. Caldwell led us into a small room at the back. It was cleaner than the others, its walls lined with boxes and sealed folders. He picked up a leather portfolio and placed it in my hands. "These are Elena's drawings," he said. "She wanted this place to exist long before she died. She believed in people like her. She believed in kids like my son." I opened the folder, sketches spilled into my hands, children laughing, hands forming signs, rooms filled with light and color. Spaces where silence wasn't a prison, but another language. The drawings were beautiful and heartbreaking, raw with hope. My throat tightened. She saw the world differently. "She did," he whispered, and I never listened. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then he looked at me with a vulnerability I never expected from a man like him. "I need your help to finish what she started." Shock rippled through me. "Me? Why me?" "Because you are the first person who ever made my son feel seen." He swallowed hard. "And because Elena would have loved you." Evan stepped forward then, touching my arm lightly. His hands rose, signing with a softness that hit me harder than any words could have. "You can help us. Please," I stared at him, at Caldwell, at the unfinished building waiting for a purpose. I had spent years believing my life was too small to matter. But maybe small lives weren't small when they touched others. Maybe my sister's story didn't end in a hospital room. Maybe this was how it continued. I nodded, tears burning behind my eyes. "I'll help." What followed moved faster than I could process. Meetings, planning sessions, video calls with international partners who were stunned by my fluency in sign language and communication strategies. Evan grew brighter every day, learning to sign more openly with his father. And Caldwell himself slowly shifted from a man defined by guilt to a father learning how to bend, apologize, and listen. Weeks later, standing before journalists, doctors, deaf educators, and families, we opened the Elena Camilla Center at last. A place built not from guilt, but from love, purpose, and a promise made to the people who needed it most. Evan stood beside me, hands trembling with emotion as he unveiled his mural, a sweeping tribute to language, belonging, and hope. At its center, painted in soft, bright colors, were two girls, Elena and Camilla, their hands signing the word home. I wiped tears from my cheeks. Caldwell stood behind us, pride softening every hard line in his face. When he spoke at the podium, his voice cracked as he thanked the person who saved not just the project, but his family. He said my name. The crowd applauded. Cameras flashed. I closed my eyes for a moment and whispered the only words that mattered. We did it, Camilla. When the ceremony ended, Evan touched my hand again. Thank you, he signed. No, I signed back. Thank you. As the sun dipped behind the trees, lighting the center in gold, one truth settled inside me with stunning clarity. No one is invisible unless the world refuses to look. If this story touched your heart, would you like to see more stories about kindness and second chances? Yes or no? If you enjoyed this journey, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you never miss a new video. I'd love to know what country you're watching from, so leave a comment below and share the story with someone who might need a little hope today.